What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the LA Soccer Hub Show. My name is Gio Garcia. Today is Tuesday, January 18th. Both teams have opened up training camp, both LAFC and LA Galaxy. LAFC started today, Galaxy was this weekend. The photos are coming up. A lot of players are showing up, so some new faces in familiar places. We're going to talk about that, or what we expect, what we see. Here joining us once again, all the way from Colombia. We got my man Andy Diosa. Andy, how you doing?
What up, man? Checking in from the motherland. Still out here living life to the
Uh,
fullest, but still tapped in. Got to get ready for the season. So don't let nobody know I'm out here scouting goalkeepers for LAFC. Please keep that a secret.
oh, so they got you on the payroll now. I see. That's good.
Ah, man, I don't know about all that yet.
Yeah. So are you working your way up? Is that how it is? You're the entry level
Man.
right now.
New year, new me. We got to get for some new goals. We got to try for some newer things. So you know how it goes.
I like that. I like that. But yeah, man, like I said, there's like a lot of cool stuff going on, And I think it's always an exciting time when you start seeing the photos and everything pop up, especially for both teams. But yeah, man, it feels like it definitely was a shorter off season. But what are you most excited about now that you see obviously both teams and everything? What are you most excited when you start seeing the photos and all that?
I mean, I honestly do like preseason because it gives all these players a chance to kind of like mix up and see what they have. And it's unfortunate because the fans are not really able to see because these are mostly played behind closed doors. Media is able to attend, I think, to most of the preseason if you would like to. But I just think in terms of like new players and new coaches, it's just cool to for them to be able to get those games in. And in the Galaxy's, I guess, point of view, like last year them playing that many preseason games definitely helped them get off to that quick start that they did last season. And they all talked about it from Greg Vanny down to the players that that's so important. And they're playing six more games this preseason. So I just like the flow of preseason, getting things back to, back in the swing of things. And then before we know, we're going to be talking about, season openers at, both stadiums and things are going to come quickly with the season approaching. So I'm excited just to see soccer again.
Yeah, no, I mean, me too. It's just like, I feel like I'm getting antsy now, and everything that's going on. Seeing this and like being back out there and stuff. Sith the Lord or Sir Thy Leaf, interesting name on YouTube. He says first, he says this is pre-recorded live. This is live. It's definitely live. But yeah, and then we also got Anthony Bermudez. He says he has a question. He's like, I wonder why Vela deleted IG. Um, which makes it very interesting because I
He's sick,
saw
you
that.
guys, man.
Huh? Let's talk about it because that was
He's sick of the defense.
say that again.
So he's sick of LAFC fans in his comments, man. He tells you guys.
He's tired. Hey, look, honestly, I thought it was interesting, but I guess I get it. I don't know, like he also didn't really post that much recent as of late, and is probably just for him not. I'm assuming here that he won't pay attention to any of that. I don't know. What are your thoughts on when you see Vela no longer has an Instagram account?
Honestly, I'm more surprised that he had an Instagram account. If we're keeping it 100, like he's not the type of person I would think to have an IG. And I know that a player like of his caliber probably has to do a lot of like, let's say, sponsor stuff. I saw he had put up some stuff, either if it's just stories and things like that, with sponsor stuff. And probably just the situation, man. Like I'm sure that LAFC fans were all up in his comments. I'm sure he didn't monitor it 24/7, but he probably read enough of it, and he probably heard the noise of people saying that he's at the beach while they're playing the Galaxy and Carson and things like that. So, I mean, hey, man, social media is a very tough place to navigate. I couldn't imagine being a world-known football player and being under the circumstances that he's in with the last few seasons. So, if I get tired of it, I'm sure as hell positive that he gets tired of it and all these athletes get tired of it. So, I'm for it, man. Why not?
Yeah, honestly, the thing that to me it's interesting. Like I said, like I understand it, but it's just like like I said, you can only imagine the type of hate or negative comments that you get at that level. I mean, you and I get some, but it's not at that
Right.
extent. It's like million when you got millions of followers and stuff like that. And to me, it's just like I think he's just gonna focus. That's how I'm taking it. He's just gonna focus on the season. But I think the other side is still like that was one way of him before, I think before this season, to connect with fans and people can see, what he's up to. Obviously, I think more fans are going to pay attention to what his wife posts and stuff like that because that's how fans are finding out on IG. But I see it's more of him just focusing in on the season, seeing what it is. Not, because you don't want to pay attention to the outside noise and not get distracted or get carried away. And I see it as him being focused, and we'll see what happens and if he reactivates it later in the season or not. But like even then, he wasn't. He still wasn't connected. He still wasn't connected with them last season. So it is what it is. It is very interesting, but we'll see what happens. I want to give a shout out to Juan Vargas. He says, "Saludos, fool."
What
He said, "Yo, I heard Andy gave Chicho the Rona. Chicho is not with LAFC, so please explain yourself, Andy."
Hey man, I saw Chicho. What was it? December 28th, maybe here in Medellin. And then what his positive result thing just came out a few days ago. So I don't know if the numbers add up quite quite, but I'm free. I'm good. He's good. He's good. I know that for a fact. He's all right. I'm pretty sure he's still here. I'm pretty sure he's still in Medellin because of the World Cup qualifiers coming up with all of the news coming around the team right now. There's a few injuries and stuff like that. So he might be on that list, which I would assume he wouldn't be going back to LA to fly all the way back to Colombia because that game is in 10 days here in Barranquilla. So he might kind of just be waiting, or he might have already word from the federation that he's going to be part of that call up, which means that he would be with Colombia at least through February 2nd, I believe. So he's going to be a late arrival.
I think we're kind of losing you there, Andy. But yeah, like so if you guys have questions, no, Andy did not give Chicho the Rona. Andy is still out there in Colombia, but yeah, so he's expected to stay out there. I know they had an exhibition game. I think it was at Honduras or one of the Central American teams in Florida, but Chicho was not able to be part of it. But I think as Tandy's point, I think he was saying that Chicho's still going to be out there. He's expected to be out there a couple more weeks, with the team. So he was obviously there with the team. I want to give a shout out to Alex. He says listening and while listening to Gio and Andy while playing FIFA. You're a beast, Alex. You're gonna have to show us how you do. But yeah, I think the interesting thing as we see some of these photos and everything, I think that one of the bigger things I think for me is seeing finally Steve Sharondolo being able to talk to his team today and making it, having that first voice with everybody. I'm assuming he's already had these conversations with all the players individually, but now you have somewhat of the group together. And you start making those announcements, what players can expect moving forward and everything. And I also want to just share, like, I think this is one of the bigger things of the photo. I don't know if you guys came across or saw the photo of Steve Sharondolo and Carlos Vela. Obviously, Carlos Vela looks like he hasn't gotten a haircut, and I think he kind of rocks. He tends to rock the long haired and the beard like that. And I think that's his thing. We've seen a couple of his photos like that. He's long hair, don't care. And yeah, we'll see what other photos. There's Chicharito right there. Yeah, and talking about Chicharito and the LA Galaxy, this is what MLS in Espanol. So yeah, they're talking about all the Hispanic players on there, as you can see. So it's good to see this around the league. It's good to see start to see all these photos come up. Here we go. We got Andy just going through some of these preseason photos. Um Andy, but to your point, what were you saying about Chicho before you got cut off?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where I got cut off, but I was just saying that he'll be a late arrival to LAFC preseason, regardless if he gets called up or not. I'm pretty sure he's still here in Colombia, but like I said, he's probably going to be on that list for the Colombia World Cup qualifiers against Peru and Argentina, which start, like I said, in 10 days is the game against Peru here in Colombia, and then they play Argentina a few days after that. So he's fine. I know he's good from the COVID diagnosis. He's asymptomatic, so he's good to go. The good thing is that he had been playing, in Colombia for a little bit, and then he had been training with the team at least. So form-wise, I don't think it'd be too much of a worry. It's just, getting him integrated with a team, with a new coach and new teammates might be a little tough, but it is what it is. a lot of players that have those international aspirations and stuff like that go through the same thing. So I think he'll be good to go once the season starts anyway.
Yeah, and I think also players that were not in the first team training, and this is per LAFC, the website.com. They wrote Ismail Tashardi, the new guy. Latif Blessing wasn't there. Um, the other international call-ups, Jose Cifuentes, Diego Palacios, Kellen Acosta. Obviously, he's with the U.S. men's national team. So yeah, obviously the players that weren't there obviously makes sense. Not everybody needs to be there today, but it makes, if you're able to be there, you're able to be there. But if you still need some time with your family or wherever, because a lot of these players, don't live in the U.S., have families in other countries, so it makes sense why they would try to spend as much time as they could, especially in a short and off season, with their family. But I think we expect outside of the international players, like I think Latif Blessing, Ishmael, and who else? I think it was just Latif Blessing, yeah, and Ishmael to be there pretty soon. Another note for the LAFC side was, I think it was Chiqui Palacios. No, no, no. Eddie Segura, he's still recovering. Opoko, he's still recovering. I think I read on that. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Eddie Segura, and obviously potentially being able to come back this season? I know I read in the article that said that he's still training on the sideline and stuff, because he's going to be very, very important for them this season. I would imagine, depending when he's ready to go. If he's not ready to go by February 26th, I would expect a couple more signings in that defensive end.
Yeah, I think we talked about it before, and we'll find out more Thursday. They have their first media availability, I guess, of the preseason, and that's going to be my question. Like, give me that timeline on what Eddie looks like and players like Opoku, because it's a very important part for LASC to obviously get him back on the field when they can. But we don't know how he's been progressing from that injury. From all the signs, it's been positive, but we just don't know what the timeline looks like. So we'll find out more Thursday for sure and confirm those details. But like you said, he's the man back there, and I think that we saw the drop off when he got hurt on how Jesus David Murillo kind of fell off a bit, and that's important because they were definitely in sync, they were definitely comfortable with each other, and I think that's the center back pairing that they want. Mamadou Fall's emergence was great, and obviously he's good enough to fill the role. But I think if everybody's healthy, let's just say it's a clean slate, I think they're going with Segura and Murillo as that center back pairing. But then they also have Ibiaga there as well that could fill in some spots. So I'm not sure if they necessarily need more defensive players, but that depth is never a bad thing. I just know that from coming off of last year, they were so up and down defensively, and seeing so many of the lapses and just so much of like how disoriented they were. It's going to be, I think, the biggest focus for LAFC is that. I mean, we could talk
I think we're losing Andy. I think we're losing you there,
have
Andy. I
good
think
enough
I think
players.
it's cutting in and out.
You
Give me a
good?
second to. I think you got you there. Yeah, we're just cutting in and out.
Yeah, my bad, my bad. I don't know. This internet over here a little shaky, but yeah, defensively, I
It's
was just
okay.
like saying that's going to be their biggest focus, and I think that's we said it before, that's a plus for Sharundalo because that's his forte, that's his bread and butter. So that's going to be where we really want to see the work for LAFC. So it's very important. But yeah, we don't know what the timeline looks like on Segura, like I said, but we'll try to find out, confirm more details on Thursday, and then see go from there.
Yeah, I think to me it's like they may look. You got to give them props. Kellen Acosta was an amazing signing for LAFC. I think we'll get into more into that. Whether I know he had tweeted that about him, but Colorado not taking on the offer for him to go to Europe and stuff. We'll get more into that, but I think all the signs that they've made so far, you're starting to build. There's MLS experience. If you compare it to a year ago, they only had brought like two or three guys with somewhat of an MLS experience. But this year, you can already see the difference. You can already see there's a lot more MLS experience from the guys they've picked up around the league. And that should tell you, okay, I think that the front office realized that, like, hey, we need to have some of these guys actually have played in this league, know how it is, are battle tested, and you're not really seeing all these younger signings and stuff. And I don't think you could also do that, especially with the new first year head coach and stuff. So I definitely start when you start seeing how they're starting to build this roster. It's definitely it's starting to come up. It's starting to look up pretty smooth. I think the only thing is now it's the like we just talked about the center back pairing. Who is it going to be? Murillo. I know there's rumblings about him. Interest from America. I don't know how strong those reports are, those rumors are. But also, I think you would need to add maybe two or three more defensive players. Because you still got to figure out who's like I said, the center back pairing. Maybe another guy to go on the left side. Is Marco Fafan going to play on the left side with Chiqui Palacios? Like, who's going to be the guy on the left side? And then the goalkeeping position, right? We know they only got one. They got Tomas Romero. Tomas Romero. As of right now, I'm not sure if he's the guy. I'm not sure if Steve Cherundolo has him as number one guy. But either, regardless of that, regardless if Romero is the guy for Cherundolo or not, you still need another backup goalkeeper. And I think that they need to make another signing. And I think that to me, we you and I talked about it. I think that has to be the biggest signing. You don't need to drop a DP spot on that. But the reason why I say it's the biggest, it's the most significant because this team has struggled with having a goalkeeper going into year five. So I think that may be the most important piece outside looking in when it comes to roster building because of how this team, we know we can expect from up top from Chicho, B Rod, Vela, right? If he's healthy. The midfield, it looks like now they have more of a solid midfield added, a couple pieces. But yeah, obviously the back line and the goalkeeping position, I think it's more important on how and who they bring in, right? Because they've missed, if we're going to be honest, they've missed the mark on everybody that they've brought in. Pablo's gone. Jabal Blackman, the 6 month trial, the 3 month trial did not work out. So I'm very interested to see who they bring in, and when they bring in, because preseason training camp has started, and I'm surprised they haven't made that announcement. What are your thoughts on LAFC getting a goalkeeper?
No, I 100% agree. I think that's next up. I think everybody's waiting for that being the next signing for LAFC. You, regardless of like what you said, if they say Tomas is the number one, that's fine, but you still need to have another one on the roster. So that's what it comes down to for LAFC. And we've seen over the years, like you mentioned, there's been so much up and down. I would give them a chance, but at the same time, they probably have sights set on somebody that they're going to bring in and try to give a chance to as well. So that's the of the most importance at this point, because you fill in the roster so many different ways, but now that's that one question mark, and it's been a question mark for the past 4 seasons that they've existed. You never know like who's going to be the guy back there. So it's super important for LAFC to get that situated, because if we're turning the page on a new team and a new coach and things like that, whenever we would ask Bob about goalkeepers, it's like, oh, we don't have a number one, we don't have a number one. And once again, if you look around the league, teams don't function that way. Teams have a number one goalkeeper. It's one of the positions that you shouldn't have. For some reason, he continue that. So
Yeah, no, and obviously I'm just showing photos here of the training camp today, the first day. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm very surprised. I thought that would have been one of the first signings that they would do because of such the high turnover. But I think they got to get this right when it comes to this goalkeeping position because look, it's a whole new system now. You got a whole new coach. You got to get this goalkeeper situation right this time around. I just don't think there's no way else to look about it because it's like it's if they don't, they may get built. They like last year they had somewhat of a they had a talented team. This year they have a talented team as well. But if that goalkeeping position is the same as last year, this team is only going to go so far, right? And this team has aspirations, to do something big this year, even though under first year Steve Cherundolo, which I think may be a little difficult. But nevertheless, anytime you have Vela, Chicho, Brian Rodriguez, you're set up properly, but you should make a deep run. And I know, and I kind of also wonder, like, without knowing all these other signings, like what's LAS, what's potentially, I know this is like early, but what's potentially LAFC's ceiling for the season? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is I because I know they want a trophy. I know fans want a trophy. Every team, right? Every team wants a trophy, but I just kind of wonder right now, and I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want. I don't. We'll do like season predictions once that team is actually built, like maybe like a week before the season starts. We can do that for like both teams, but right now, I think it's a little too foggy. It's not clear enough for me to really pinpoint down until we see the rest of the pieces come together. Obviously, there's some coaching staff coming as well. They still got to get the rest of the coaching staff together. So hopefully everything comes together for LAFC as it goes on. But I do want to talk about they are going to be part of the Coachella, what is it, the preseason in Coachella that is hosted by the LA Galaxy are hosting it. They do have a game, a preseason game out there, which is going to be, I think it's February 15th against DC United. Let's talk about that. What are your thoughts about that? I read it's not open to the public unless I misread that. So it's just like just the teams out there, no fans, which is unfortunate because I think everybody was looking forward to go out there and make the 2 hour drive, depending where you are in the city. But what are your thoughts on that? A lot of teams coming in and doing this first round. Maybe they want to get it right, and then potentially next year they can invite fans and all that.
Missed opportunity, first of all, to not call it Goldchella like all the LA Galaxy fans were saying on
Yep.
Twitter, because it
Yep.
was just right there. It was a layup, but it happened. But I think it's cool, man. I think something like that is cool because a lot of those teams that are Eastern Conference based and in cold weather places and things like that travel to California anyway for the preseason. It's been happening forever. So to put something together of that stature, I think it's pretty cool because it's going to get a little bit more exposure for a lot of these players, just mixing with different teams and seeing different things. And preseason could get stale, right? If you're in the same place, if you're playing against the same teams over and over. So I think it's a cool thing that the Galaxy are doing and having all those teams head over that way. Like you said, it's the first one, so they probably want to get it right and tweak it from there. But at the same time, it's a good way to get more games in from a certain standpoint of set of time because sometimes travel gets mixed up or calendars get difficult and going back to last year, how many it was the Revs that were in LA and the Galaxy. I mean, the LAFC played them like what 2 or 3 times, and it's like cool. Like once is cool, we get it, but it's like to play that same team over and over again just because of the sake of them being in California. I feel like it doesn't, it makes sense for the sake of getting games, but it doesn't make sense for the sake of trying to do different things tactic wise and experiment that way. So I think it's a pretty dope thing. Hopefully it goes well, and I think for all the teams involved, they'll probably get a lot out of it heading into the season because, like I said earlier, the more games you could play in the preseason, it's only going to be better for you. And once again, the Galaxy proved that in the beginning half of last season, and they got up to that fast start. So I think LAFC is playing what 4 preseason games, and the Galaxy 6, if I'm not mistaken.
My mind. I gotta let things go on in my mind. And be honest with you, I don't know the exact number of
It's
games, but
somewhere around. I know the
the
Galaxy are
more
playing. Sure.
Yeah, the more they play, the better. Especially this LAFC team is going to need it. Regardless if these players are internationally duty, these players, everybody else, they all need it. And I think also one thing that was cool to see was Christian Torres, the homegrown
Yeah.
player for LAFC. Uh, he was like 16, 17 when he made his debut. Obviously, I don't think he played at all with LAFC. He was on the USL team, Las Vegas Lights, the whole year. So Shornolo knows him. Obviously, he coached him for the year. I'm really interested in how they really develop like Christian Torres. I want to know how it will go for Christian Torres because I think that's a very important thing for because he's a first big academy player. I don't think you need to rush him or anything like that. There's a lot of people in it, up top and stuff, but I'm very interested on how LAFC will develop him through the years and stuff because if they want to have a successful academy, right? Everybody, I think right now uh, the team to look up to when it comes to developing these players, if we're going to be honest, is FC Dallas. Like FC Dallas has done it time and time again. They just sold Pepe, I think, for 18-20 million dollars. Now that's granted, that's like a unicorn type of thing. That's not going to happen all the time, but time and time again, they've been able to sell players. They've been able to build up the players. But I don't think you need to be like fully FC Dallas and not care about your first team. I think you can have it's going to be tricky. It's difficult, but there's teams that can do both. I'm very surprised that obviously neither team in LA is doing this so much rich talent out here in Southern California. I've talked about in the past, so that's why I'm very curious on how they develop Christian Torres, how he's able to develop with the first team, get those minutes in, and then eventually, if they want to sell them on and stuff like that, because all that money comes straight to go back to LAFC. They don't have to pay it, especially when it's a homegrown deal. I don't need to get into specifics, but that's the most purest way for you to get that money straight into the bank account, or put that money back into the academy and stuff. So I think no pressure to put on Christian Torres, but I think there's also a lot of players that will look up to Christian Torres that are in the academy. Hey, potentially that could be me, but that path, I want to see what that path really looks like for him. I don't think he's going to start over Vela. I don't think he's going to start over Chicho, and I don't think he's going to start over Brian Rodriguez, as he shouldn't, because those are the guys right now. You know what I'm saying? But hey, 20 minutes off the bench, 10 minutes off the bench, whatever. If he can do that, or if he can get in there somehow, that's going to be a tricky thing for Steve, to balance out. But I think that is going to be very important for the success of LAFC Academy, for the success of the future, and for also for Christian Torres to be able to get some of the minutes. What are your thoughts on that, Andy?
No, 100%, man, and we've mentioned it before. That's why you bring a coach like Sharundalo in, because this is what he's known to do for the development and help that type of pipeline. And we know for LAFC from the beginning, the academy has always been important for MLS in general, MLS Next, and the way they're expanding that for the league itself. It's super important to get these younger players into the fold. Just saw today the New England Revolution signed a 16-year-old that's a homegrown player, which is amazing. So I think it's true. And once again, we mentioned when the hire happened with Sharundalo is that maybe this didn't happen in the past because that was not Bob Bradley's style, right? Maybe he was just like, these are my guys. This is what I'm going to do. And it was hard for a lot of people to get certain minutes, Bryce Duke being one, certain younger players to kind of get in the fold there. So I think that we'll see a little bit of that. We'll see a little bit of these players mixed in, and Sharundalo will give, chances to younger players. And it's important because this is why they're there. And this is how the trajectory of that keeps going, in the right path instead of falling off and having all these different things happen. So I 100% agree with what you said there.
Yeah, kid G123 says he should get minutes in the Open Cup since it's back this year. Yeah, good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, he should definitely get minutes in the Open Cup. That's a way he can get those minutes. He definitely would start. I don't think you're gonna have Vela or Chicho, especially those international call-ups, and potentially Brian Rodriguez. Obviously, you're not gonna want him depending how the schedule fills in and all that, playing those games. And you have perfect players like Christian Torres to come in and step up. And I think it's going to be a very, very, very exciting. I think I kind of almost, I want to say, like, I forgot about him because I hadn't seen him all last year. But when I saw like LAFC had posted about him, and he did the interview, or he shared his comments, and I was like, oh right, they still got Christian. I forgot about him because he didn't play at all with the first team. So yeah, no, I think it's exciting for him. I think like you said, Sharondo has experience developing young players. Obviously, that's what he did back in Germany. So yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting how he does this season for them, and moving forward. We also saw Elise Sanchez, the other midfielder. What are your thoughts on him? Because that's another solid side that they got in the midfield. To add him and Kellen Acosta, now that Eduardo Tuesta left. What are your thoughts on that, Andy?
I think it's a good signing. Player that's been around for a while, has pretty good experience. I think that he's looking for a new challenge, and I think this is a good one because we've mentioned before LAFC just in the general, it's obviously an intriguing job, an intriguing team to play for. But I think now the way that this team is set up, going into that new era, going into that a little bit of uncertainty of what the future looks like, it's cool to be able to be like, hey, I'm here and I'm going to try to help make a mark for what's next. So I heard him speak today, and he was giving Sharon a little praise for being so direct and kind of being able to get his message out clearly right away. And for a player like that to say that coming from a line of coaches that are pretty good coaches around the league, I think that says a lot. And I think it's just the first day. Obviously, we're going to hear a lot of that same answer and same energy stuff. But I think it's a solid player to have, a very solid player. How that midfield ends up shaping up, that's for Sharundalo. But once again, going back to the same point, I think one of the major problems with Bob was that things got too stagnant way too quick. And we were, in the good years, it was okay. Mac, Atuesta, blessing. That was a three. That was it. But then when things got bad, then, Cifuentes comes in the fold. Like, things got very stagnant. So I think LAFC's in a position now that we're going to be able to see different midfields, right? You could see one with Kellen Acosta in it with Sifu pushed up. You could see players like Kim Moon Hwan or Palacios kind of play makeshift,
Come into that. Yep.
as they come into those wings. And, we're going to be able to see a lot of different iterations of what the midfield looks like. And I think that that freshness is going to benefit LAFC so much because it's not going to be the same midfield of Atuesta, of K, of Blessing, of Sifu, of you still have a player like Janela who's bouncing off an injury that's still an option as well. So there's options there, and I think for LAFC, that's what has been lacking in the past few seasons, and for them to have that now, like you mentioned, all the signings have seemed to be working in that same direction for them having that cohesion. I think you have no choice but to be optimistic about that. Now, when they start playing, if things don't pan out, then that's on Steve and the rest of the coaching staff. But I think the pieces that they put together for all the criticism that they received for the offseason, I think they've done a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think once with the Kel Acosta, that signing was like, okay. But I think in order for fans and all them to is that, like I said, the goalkeeping signing and maybe a couple more pieces on the defensive end. That I think if they get that, then then you have the versatility and everything, and then it just comes down to playing and the tactics and adjustments in the game. But yeah, no, I'm very interested to see these preseason games because you definitely learn a lot about these teams. I'm very interested to see how Steve coaches on the sideline. Is he going to be as loud as Bob? Obviously he's not as I don't he's a little bit more soft spoken compared to Bob, but I'm very interested to see how he manages the game on the side, right? Because LAFC for 4 years they've only heard one voice. They've only one method of coaching. It's only been one way. But now with Steve in charge, I'm very curious how he does pressure situations and and good situations too. And these are like happy times right now. Everybody's back. Hey, we're back from vacation, back from this, back from whatever you're doing. Chicho got married, but people got married. Different things are happening in the off season. And now and now it's going to be time for like, okay, it's happy, like let's get it together. New pieces are coming, new voice, and I think this is going to be one of the most exciting times for LAFC to start the year. And then once the games come on, then it starts to obviously get more and more serious. And I think for me, when I look at this team, I want to see. There, Juan says, "Believe in Steve." Yeah, I think you get like what I've said. You got to give Steve Sharundalo a shot. You can't necessarily look. I know some people weren't happy. It's not the signing that a lot of people want. They wanted a big name signing, and obviously, essentially that. Well, that's not what you got. It's up being a first time coach. But I'm like more interested to see how he coached. Give him time. And he may surprise people, or because this is the one thing I really think about LAFC. This was I was forgetting my point. But going into this season, outside of LAFC, they don't really have that pressure that they did last year. Last year, they were like the favorite, right? I know Vegas still has them as the favorite for this year, if that's still true, which was a couple months ago, weeks ago, whatever, on Twitter, on the Vegas odds. But this year they don't have the expectations, they don't have the pressure that they did last year when everybody was like wanted to be LAFC. And I think everybody's still going to want to be LAFC when you play them, but it's not like that pressure. Now it's like I think there's pressure within themselves, pressure within some of the fan base, but it's you don't get the sense that it was like, oh man, this is the year that they got to win the MLS Cup or bust. Obviously, they busted, they busted last year, but like this year, and I think it kind of works in their favor. But Vela doesn't have that pressure. Rodriguez doesn't have that pressure because he did solid. He just has to continue that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you sense the same thing? Like the LAFC don't have that pressure at least from the outside. I know internally there is some pressure, but outside.
Yeah, I feel like most of their pressure, like you said, is going to be internal because of it being a new phase of a new team. I mean, just when you have so much turnover from the top to the bottom, when it comes to coaches, when it comes to personnel, when it comes to players, I mean, that's a big deal. And they know that they can't go into the season with that same mentality that they had. And maybe that mentality is what kind of faulted them in these last few seasons, right? If you think back to 2019, they're coming off that first season. They're like, okay, cool, let's get back to the playoffs, and then they go and blow every expectation out of the water. But I think maybe at some point that year, they probably were a little too overconfident. And, that Galaxy playoff game is always going to stick in people's minds. But then that Seattle game, they come out and look like a completely different team. So I think that, those are part of the growing pains of being a new team, being a new franchise. But like you said, it was knowing one thing. It was Bob Bradley's way. And now it being a new system, it's going to take time. It's not going to just be instant results right away. And obviously, these players are going to need to learn how to play with each other. So it's more of a process now. It's more of year one, like not knowing what we're going to expect from the team and seeing. But at the same time, they have already set this standard in MLS, right? So bare minimum, they have to be a playoff team. I think that goes without saying. But there is still going to be a bit of that pressure. And like I said before, if they get up to a slow start, the alarm bells are going to start ringing, because if they don't bring
Right
in that
away.
DP, now before the season starts, then you're already talking about months lost and results and points that you drop. And you know how it goes in MLS with points and games being so fast and things like that. So I agree that they don't have that much pressure, but it's going to definitely be there because they still have players from last year that feel that disappointment, right? And I think it's going to start with Vela. Vela's going to have to kind of set that tone and tell these players like, yo, this is the standard that we set. That team is not built or not thinking with the mindset like, yo, we're just gonna try to see what happens. They're thinking with the mindset like they gotta win, right? And regardless of it being a new coach and them not getting that accomplished besides Supporter Shield, that's still a goal. I mean, it's a goal for every team, but obviously some teams are closer on paper and all other things than others. But it's there, man. It's there because you can't forget about the last 2 seasons, and that's going to be the bottom line. But it's definitely a lot lower than it was in the past for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. One last thing I want to talk about is the DP thing. Before we move on, yeah, I know a lot of fans were disappointed that they Cabecita didn't get signed from Cruz Azul. I think he went somewhere in the Middle East. But I just don't see a DP signing until the Diego Rossi situation. If he gets bought out or he gets bought from Fenerbahce, until that happens, I don't see LAFC signing. And I know I think Josh, a good friend of the show, Josh Gross, uh, he said he had mentioned something about like they expect to have a DP signing by the start of the season, which is less than a month from now, or a month, just over a month. We're in the 18th, yeah. So I would expect Diego Rossi's situation to get solved first. If he gets bought out, I just don't think you can loan Rossi out again. I think it has to be like either he gets sold, unless Fenerbahce extends his loan. I think that's the only way it makes sense. But if you can't be loaning out DP players, you want to either sell them on or be able to sell them on or not, because then you're in this tricky situation. You're 1 foot in, 1 foot out with such a big spot, such a big spot on the roster that you I don't think that really helps you, especially. Yeah, I just don't think, I just now knowing, understand the league more, I don't think it makes sense to really, unless it's a need you have to loan out your DP players, because it puts the team in such a tricky situation. So, yeah, I'm very interested to see what happens with the Diego Rossi, because then the domino will fall, and then who are they going to get? What are they going to use at that with that DP spot? Because it looks like the midfield is maybe set. You could use it on another up top player. I don't know, like, because typically you want to use it up top, right? But you got the pieces there. You got Vela, you got Chicho, you got B Rod, you got Poku. Like, are you going to use it on the defensive player? It may not be a bad idea. The way the team is constructed. I know it's crazy to say, and people may be like, "Yo, dude, a DP player
I
and a
said that.
defensive
I
player."
said that a few weeks ago. Remember, I did.
Did you? Okay, okay,
It
okay.
wouldn't be
Well,
the
hey,
worst, man.
huh?
I said that a few weeks ago. It wouldn't be the worst if it was a
It
defensive
wouldn't be
DP. I
not the
mean,
way you start to. Well, if you start putting the pieces together, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So that's TBD, to be determined. So let's move on. Because we got to talk about the LA Galaxy as well. They also started the preseason as well. I think they started on Saturday the 15th, whenever the 15th was. So they've started. We pull up the photos here. You see Kevin Cabral there. I believe that's Jonathan Bond, Jonathan Klinsman there, Samuel Grandsir. You start seeing these photos, and it's starting. It's also looking good for them to start, right. Like we talked about them earlier. They started the last year pretty strong, but unfortunately they didn't finish out strong. They missed the playoffs. What are your thoughts on the LA Galaxy going into this year?
I think that they were slow getting with the signings, and I always laugh at people's comments like, "Not an actual signing." But it's one of those things, like, sometimes it just doesn't work the way that people expect, that you're just gonna fire off signings. That's not how the business works. So I think that I think that there's definitely places that need addressing, but I also think that the Galaxy and Greg Vanny are, I think, a bit content with what they have, and in a way they should be because you bring up all these foreign players in, right? And we've talked about a lot how certain players like Kevin Cabral did not live up to expectations, like Sega, but then we talk about other players that were great, like Vermeulen and all these other, Victor
Grand
Vasquez played his
Sir.
role, and Grant Sir played well. He finally got his thing going. So I think that that was Greg Vanny's mindset going into the last season. It was like, we're going to bring these guys in and we have to give them the time. And he said it all through the year. Like, this is a growing process. This is a new team. So in a way, I think that Vanny was pretty set on what he had. And it was just, to use the word tweaks that LAFC fans love so much, it was just to make a few tweaks for the Galaxy, to bring those pieces in and then see what they could do. They have a talented team, right? And I think they have a little bit of what you need. They have players of your boy Julian Araujo, like his energy, his grind, his passion. Derek Williams, great defender. I think he just, with that suspension and things that happened last season, but I think he's solid for them. Obviously, Jonathan Bond was great. We already mentioned Revelison, but then you have other players that have experience. They brought Sasha back. They bring Victor Vasquez back, pending that pending physical. You have Chicharito, obviously. I think the team is built well. I think they have what it takes to be able to compete and to be able to be a contender. So I think that's what Vanny and that coaching staff mindset is. Now you see a little bit of the news coming around and players that they bring in and stuff like that to kind of fill a few holes. But all in all, like he brings a player like Raheem in, which is somebody that he knows, right? Somebody that he's had before. So I think that's Vanny's point is like, let's get this team together now. And then with the rumored signing of Markey, it's the same thing, a player that he had in Toronto. So all in all, I think the Galaxy are going to be fine. I think they're going to be fine. I think they would have been fine last year if Chicharito didn't get hurt. And you have to
Yep.
keep factoring that in because that team was rolling. And then, Chicharito goes and gets hurt. But then we're forgetting that they still have Dejan that we haven't been able to see what like exactly is that maximum potential. And I really want to see them play together this year. Like I want to see that little bit of a switch for Greg Vanny. So all in all, I think the team looks good. I think they're going to be pretty solid.
Yeah, no, the pieces, like to your point, the pieces are there for the Galaxy. As you see more photos as Raheem, the pieces are definitely there for the LA Galaxy. I think to me it's just like I think what I've been seeing some of the chatter online is from some of the fans. Look, like to your point, sometimes some of these signings don't come together as fast as fans would want and stuff. And I'm assuming that the teams want to get these signings done as fast. There's a lot of things that go negotiations that factor in. But I think like Sebastian Lletget, obviously he's gone. Jonathan Dos Santos, he was gone. So I think a lot of people are waiting on the DP spot. Who are they using it, right? We know like what we
Right.
see everybody else. That how we talked about earlier, how important that DP spot is really to a team. So I'm very interested to see because I think it was Kevin Baxter. He had tweeted about this or talked about this for the LA Galaxy because so many of the Galaxy fans don't want that DP signing, and as they should because uh, that's going to be a big piece. We know Jonathan. Now you actually have a spot that could potentially be the difference maker. That could potentially be this could potentially be the guy to take you over the next step, right? Obviously, making the playoffs is the first step because they didn't make the playoff last year. But I think to me, if I'm, if I get to, decide or was doing that, I think you got to be looking at someone like of a number 10 or center attacking mid somewhere there. I would assume that that's where they're trying to eye on. I think Resnick was in the conversation a little bit for the LA Galaxy, but he ended up going up north to the Seattle Sounders, which is insane. So it's like the Sounders, yeah, we'll talk about them, later in the season, but they just keep getting better and better. But to me, it's like when I look at this Galaxy team, that's the signing that I don't want to say is going to depend on the season because I feel like that's a lot of pressure. But if you get a solid signing, you get another player that's a solid number 10 player that could definitely be the difference maker for the LA Galaxy. And I think that's what a lot of fans are wanting. And, and maybe that's some of the frustration of why the signing hasn't happened. Some of these signings. But they do have going into year two, they do have a solid team. But I just think that DP signing, I think the sooner the better, but obviously they got until February 26th. But you want to get them at least a couple weeks with the team. What are your thoughts on the open DP spot?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, with leaving, that leaves gaps. And I think that people obviously are very attached to those players, but if you think about Dos Santos in the past few seasons, like that was just more of a him being there and hey, we love him type of thing because he was so up and down and the injuries plagued him and things like that. Not saying that he's a bad player, it's just that it wasn't consistent enough for what the Galaxy needed for the role that he had played to the role that they wanted him to play. It just wasn't there. And I feel like Sebastian Lletget was always consistent enough. I don't want to say he was always consistent because I know that's what Galaxy fans harp on, but I feel like he was consistent enough. But once again, it's those systems of what the Galaxy were doing, either if it was under GBS or if it was under Vanny. You know what I am interested in seeing them let Efra play a lot more freely because I feel like that could open up a lot offensively. Because I feel like we're so used to seeing him just push to the side, push to the wing, and kind of like, hey, let's move the ball up and create. But if they let him roam a little bit and play in the middle, I feel like that could be very big for the Galaxy. But 100%, I'm with you. The DP needs to be that attacking mid caliber. It needs to be a player that kind of connects, links that play up because once again, we see when Chicharito goes out, then you start missing the connections, you start missing the goals. It's like that can't be the Galaxy's end all be all because it was the same way with Zlatan was there. If it's the same thing with Chicharito, it's going to be the same results at the end. So 100% they do need to fill that role for them to be able to feel like that team is complete. But once again, like I mentioned, re-signing a player like Victor Vasquez is huge in that because we saw how good he could be creatively. And when he has the ball in his possession, either if it's over the top, if it's on the ground, he's a very smart player. Obviously, somebody that Vanny knows well and loves. And I think that just having those is very useful for them. But yeah, they do need to fill that hole for sure.
Yeah, no, I do. I think the news, it was yesterday or today officially that, Victor Vasquez resigned with the Galaxy. I think that was everybody expected that. He does. I know he's not able to, play you a full 90 minutes, but whatever he can give you, sometimes he's 45 or whatever. But his passing is insane. What he does, it gives you a good 45. But yeah, I think Victor Vasquez, I see him more this season, more as a player coming off the bench, depending on injuries, depending, US Open Cup and different things like that, because just he's not able to go the full way, or he's, maybe depending on the situation, on the formation, he may start a couple games and stuff. But I see him more as coming off the bench. In my eyes, we'll see what happens, once the season starts coming on. But nevertheless, that's a great signing. Another signing that I want to talk about. Yeah, they signed free agent goalkeeper Richard Sanchez. This is a little bit of a surprise to me because when we look at the LA Galaxy, you're not really looking at them and being like, oh yeah, they need a third goalkeeper when you have Jonathan Bond, arguably one of the best goalkeepers, if not the best, in the MLS, and then you got Jonathan Klinsmann, who showed he was a solid backup. He's a free agent, maybe you could you fill up the roster spot, but it's a little odd, it's just a little odd. That's not what I was thinking. I was like, wait, a goalkeeper? I was like, when I saw the notification come in, I was like, I literally thought it was for Galaxy 2 or something like that, but then I started seeing it online, and I think this was what makes fans a little upset. But we need to find out a little bit more what Richard Sanchez is role with the Galaxy. Oh, Alex, who's a big guy with the Galaxy community, he's probably going straight to USL most likely. That could make sense. But what are your thoughts on that, on the signing?
Wrong LA team with goalkeeper news. That's a dog, man.
Yes. Yeah,
It's
ding
like
ding ding,
Like
correct.
we're over here waiting for LAFCs. That's the biggest piece missing, and here go the Galaxy with a third keeper. Yeah, I think Alex is right. It's probably nothing more than a USL player, another player to have on the staff. Once again, like I said with LAFC, teams around the league do not really juggle goalkeepers. Everybody has a number one. I just never understood why LAFC was of the mindset that they didn't have a number one. But it's clear who Galaxy's number one is. And I think that top comment there is hilarious. We have arguably one of the best keepers in the entire league. Like Bond's phenomenal, man, and he
Oh yeah, yeah. Hold on,
could
let
have
me.
very well.
We arguably, like, zooming into this. I didn't even see this. We arguably have one of the best keepers in the entire leagues and the worst defensive midfielder in the entire league. I don't know about the midfield.
Right,
Front
right.
office in quotation marks. Another keeper.
But it hits the point though, right?
Oh my
It's like
god.
Bond could very well won goalkeeper of the year last year if it wasn't for Matt Turner being absolutely insane. But it doesn't matter. Like they knew coming into the year last season that was like Bonds. That was Bonds' role, right? They signed him. They put him in there. The first few games, he was great, and that was it. We have never talked about. The only time we talked about Bond not being the number one is that random game. I don't know if it was just one game or not. That Vanny started Klinsman, and we were like, "Oh, whoa, whoa, what's going on? Like, what happened?" And Vanny was like, "Nah, it's just like a rotation thing." But there's no. I don't think there's too much that needs to be said or looked into this. Like, it's Bond's job, and
Yeah,
he obviously proved it. And it's I guess like
yeah.
just a roster move for the Galaxy more than anything.
Yeah, and like Alex, he's clearing things up for us because I was like, I don't see it. I don't, this doesn't make sense. He says Alex adds, he's like, they didn't resign Von Stieg last year. They need a backup for Galaxy 2, which makes sense. I think the people, what people is just like they're expecting a big signing, and I think it throws people off and it gives a perception
Right.
that like that comment which alludes to the front office, not, like struggling with their decisions and not knowing comes across as like not knowing and stuff. But yeah, I think if he is for LA Galaxy 2, they should just made it for the LA Galaxy 2 because then it gets kind of tricky. Like, hey, why another goalkeeper? But yeah, I'm with you on that. This is Bond's job. Bond's not going nowhere. I think Clinton solidified the backup role, and this is definitely a USL for the USL for the Galaxy 2 team. So it does get tricky, but hey, that's what happens. We don't know how these roster situations work. We don't know all these different things, but yeah, it definitely gets under fans' nerves as we could clearly see there. But yeah, no. Well, I want to look up the Galaxy's. This is one I want to pull up. This is the Galaxy's schedule for the off season, which is I think really important how they have it laid out here. Let me see if I can zoom into of it right here. So obviously Saturday, January 15th, as you can see there, they reported. So their first closed-door scrimmage is Saturday, January 29th against Toronto. It's gonna be at 11 a.m. Then Saturday, February 5th, against your team, the New England Revolution, Andy. Thursday, February 10th, they go to Coachella against
Go
the Seattle Sounders. Sunday, February 13th, Super Bowl weekend against the New York Red Bulls. Then Wednesday, they finally come back here Wednesday, February 16th for another closed door scrimmage against the Vancouver Whitecaps, and then they finish it off February 19th, back at home against DC United. So if we count, what is this? One, two, three, four, five, 6 games. I think this is the same amount of games they had last year.
Yep, yep.
What are your thoughts on that? I think that looks like a solid schedule and a solid amount of games. You got all your guys this year, exception of the DP. But what are your thoughts when you look at the schedule for the Galaxy?
You know what I like about it the most is that they're quality games. They're not games
Yeah.
against teams that are just, or it's not them just scrimmaging against each other. Like Toronto, for all we know, Bob Bradley building over there a juggernaut, and people are gonna expectations are gonna fly high in the summer when our Italian superstar gets into the, I was gonna say
Hmm.
into the States, but into Canada. Obviously, the Revs coming off of a historic season. The Sounders seem to just be getting better every time we look. The Red Bulls have things to prove. Vancouver have things to prove. And DC United, like, it's a great slate for the Galaxy because this season we're going to see them play Eastern Conference teams again. So it's cool that they're able to do that. And once again, like I've been mentioning, I think the more games they could get in, the better. I think Vanny and this system is very smart the way that this is going down. And the addition of that tournament helps so much because, like I said, now they're in same proximity with these teams, with Seattle, with New York, and they're able to get more of these games in because we already knew they were going to play the Revs. The Revs are in LA all the time for preseason, and then obviously DC United trying to get to warm weather places to train as well. So I think it's awesome. I think it's a great slate for the Galaxy, and it's going to help a lot because once again, you're able to build not only just on the field, but you're able to build off the field, right? And I think that's another underlying concept of that little tournament is like you're taking a team kind of on a road, right? It's not a far game. It's not like it's not as close as going down to or going up to 110 and going to visit LAFC, but it's a little bit of a trip, right? And within that, you're building moments with teammates, you're building bonding, you're build like all those little intricacies play a role in that. So I think that it's awesome that the Galaxy are doing this and the teams involved that are coming from elsewhere are participating because it's going to help a lot. And the Galaxy's for the Galaxy's standpoint, they're local, they're hosting, so it's huge for them, for the club, for Greg Van, and I think they'll be able to get a lot out of it, whether or not they're able to figure out from those 6 games, which they probably won't because that's not how preseason works. But they'll be able to know enough going into the opener because for the Galaxy it's tough too because they're placed with high expectations because they have to go right over to Charlotte. I think week 2 and play their first home game over there, and that's going to be crazy. The Galaxy
I
always
think
get
they
those
play that
big.
at home. They play that. I think that's at home. But go ahead.
Nah, the Charlotte game is in North Carolina. That's for sure.
Is
They
it?
play
Oh
like
yeah. I think
they start. I think they start at home. I forget who they're playing. But and then they go. They're playing New York, right? Don't they start the season with New York? NYCFC.
Hey, we're in preseason too,
I'm
so
pretty
we
sure
can
they do.
mess
Cause
up. We can
nah,
mess
nah.
up.
I'm pretty sure they start the season with NYCFC. Quote
Yeah,
me on that
I
one,
think
damn it.
you're. Oh, you're right. New York City. Yeah, New York City. Yeah,
Oh,
you're right. New York
so that's
City.
what I'm saying. Like they start the year with the MLS Cup champions, and then they play against an
Then they go to
expansion team who's
Charlotte. Yeah.
playing their first game at home, who has expectations to set the MLS record for attendance. Like it's not an easy start for the Galaxy, but that's because MLS knows what they're doing when they put the Galaxy up against these teams for exposure. So for the Galaxy, they need to be up to that level from the jump. So that's why those 6 games are super important.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think to me, yeah, the Galaxy this season, there's definitely a lot more expectation going into year two. They missed the mark on that. Um, but yeah, I think this year is going to be a little bit important. Before I talk about that, I wanted to talk about. I know you hit on this earlier. It looks like the Galaxy are on the final stages of signing Marky Delgado. It looks like he played with Greg Vanney in Toronto. What I'm reading here is going to be expected. He's going to be expected as a TAM signing. So I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know too much of Marky Delgado. Let me just pull this up from Total Galaxy. They got this up here. Um, but yeah, no, I think that in a little bit more of that depth. I don't know. I don't know how he played. I didn't watch him too much. But I think I think it's very it's a good signing, and this is a corner of the Galaxy. Here they got it from Total Galaxy. It says rumored in the final stages. Delgado's expected to be a 10 player. A trade with Toronto is coming the next days. Okay, he's just waiting on the league approval. So he's a 26-year-old midfielder. What are your thoughts on this? I haven't watched this game. I don't know too much, but it's another familiar face like Raheem Edwards, with Greg Vanney. What are your thoughts on this potential signing?
I think it's a great look for the Galaxy because once again, you're talking about filling spots of Jonah not being there and Sebastian Lletget not being there, and bringing in a player that not only has MLS experience but has the experience with that coach who won MLS Cup with that coach, who won Support the Shields with that coach. They went and win that treble in that historic year, and he was a regular starter for that team then. So I think the energy, the experience, and just the comfort of knowing Vanny is going to be huge for them. I think he could come in and be a starter right away if we're being 100% honest. I don't know if Vanny would be hesitant to do that, but I wouldn't be shocked because the same way that we saw him really go and fish for Victor Vasquez and the way that he used him last season could be very similar to the way that Delgado fits. So I think this is a very, very good look for the Galaxy because I think he's a solid midfielder and he's going to be able to. He's a young dude, right? He's going to be able to give you a lot more energy than we saw from Jonah and being gassed out in a lot of these games, right? So I think that he's going to have a pretty solid position in that team. I think he's going to have a big role. And I think that's another thing. Like Vanny knows these guys. Like he likes his guys. It's not a secret. And if he's bringing somebody in like that, if he's going through those efforts, it's for a reason. So I could see him being a very important player for the Galaxy this season.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Another great point, which I really like this point by Alex because he says another interesting about the Galaxy. Their TV deal with Spectrum is up. They could possibly stream their games on the Galaxy website or YouTube account this season. I don't know if they'll do the YouTube, but I think the league has something worked out because if anybody knows, and I know the Galaxy fans know this, trying to watch Galaxy games if you don't have Spectrum or even Laker games, Dodger games over, but like Galaxy games because sometimes they put them on Spectrum 2 or 3 or whatever, were the hardest. And I'm gonna be honest, I had a stream of them a lot. Look, I don't got Spectrum. I streamed them. Hey,
Hey man, salute to
it's
the LA
so
Galaxy
hard.
family Discord, man, doing
The
God's work.
the Galaxy Discord, yeah. Shout out to G Man and the Discord. They had all the games. It was so hard,
Yes, sir.
and it should not be that hard to watch these games. I hope the MLS is working on a package deal where, like, kind of like the NBA, like you pay for like NBA TV or whatever, or the NFL, the red zone ticket or whatever. I forgot what it's called. Honestly, I would pay for it because it's not gonna be I don't expect it to be $200. Like, I don't think they could charge that much, being the MLS and all these games. I wouldn't expect it. I think I'd be okay for the season. Um, Maybe 50 bucks. I don't know, 100 bucks. I don't know, like 80 bucks or something like that for like you get all the MLS games or something like that. I don't know how, how they price that, but I think something around that would make sense and make it easier, like I like watching other MLS teams as well, and I think if I had the opportunity to watch all the because I know they have because I got ESPN Plus, but the games were blacked out because of the Spectrum deal and all these different
Right,
things.
right.
So now that the MLS, hopefully they're able to bundle it all and sell it to us. Or I don't know what they do because it was so hard to watch Galaxy fans. I mean, they know, you guys know how hard it was. So I think that is exciting for this year. How that's going to be packaged in more ESPN games. I'm assuming more primetime games, more Fox Sports games. So I'm looking forward to that because it was so hard outside of the Galaxy Discord. Those guys did a great job.
Nah, for sure, man. I think it's long overdue for MLS to kind of figure that out, right? Because I feel like it's just weird for you to not be able to have access to a lot of those games. For Galaxy fans, they're lucky, like I mentioned, they get put in these prime spots. So there's a lot of those Fox games, a lot of those ESPN games. But at the end of the day, if it's a Wednesday game, a random game against the Dynamo, there's no reason why like LAFC fans or LA Galaxy fans should be struggling to find their team on any broadcast or whatever the case may be. So they need to get that figured out across the board, just for the sake of exposure. Because like you said, people like watching other teams, man. There's a lot of interesting teams around the league. Obviously, time zones and stuff like that mix and make things a little difficult, but it should be a lot easier than it is right now for sure.
Yeah, because I think, look, to me, like, and I think this is why some of us struggle to watch some of the games. Because look, outside of LAFC, LA Galaxy, it's hard for me to watch any other team. Because there's a lot going on during the season and stuff like that. But if it's not on ESPN or Fox Sports, um, or I could easily have access to watch it, then it's hard. You know what I'm saying? But if there's that package deal, that bundle, that like, hey, okay, I just gotta log into my MLS account or whatever, however they do it, and I can watch a game, on a Wednesday, or I can watch a rerun, or I'm assuming they'd have the reruns or the replays of the games and stuff. Then I think it'd be easier for someone who's an avid watcher of the league to learn more about these players. Because look, just like I don't know about Marky Delgado. The league is not like that. The MLS is not there yet, like NBA or NFL, when it's like, oh yeah, so and so is coming to this team, and he's gonna fit perfect with this team because of
Right.
this that. It's just we're not there yet, and someone that watches a lot is just like, and it's just there's some of your players, but yeah, if I think that the packaging deal or something like that with MLS, I think would make sense. What would you be comfortable paying like for the year for the MLS year? Because I'm just thinking out loud.
Well, it's different because it's tough. The ESPN Plus has basically all the games that are not nationally televised, I guess. But like you said, the blackouts you deal with, but that's like what, $5.99. It's like it's ridiculous. And then they have replays and stuff like that you could watch too. But it's like I get what you mean. Like a more centralized thing, just in general, would be I would pay, man, because obviously we work in the business and have to kind of keep eyes on everything. I would pay, man. I like there's all these other different services that we're paying for. I say we. I'm not paying for Netflix. I'm not paying for none of that. But I got. I would pay, man. I would pay for MLS. I would pay. I would tell you
Yeah, I
that.
don't pay for Netflix. I use my brother's account. Yeah, shout out to my brother for letting me use his
I would,
account.
I would pay for MLS, but it's hard, man. Because other thing too is like the games that get nationally televised are often the
Free.
same
Yeah, yeah.
teams, and it's like great. We want to see LAFC on the big screen. We want to see the Galaxy on the big screen. We want to see Atlanta United, the Sounders, SKC. But like, how often do you get teams that you don't get to watch because there's a reason behind that of markets and monetary reasons? But it's like, sure, those nationally televised games are repetitive because they end up being rivalry games against Portland, Seattle, and Traficos and things like that. And it's like, all right, man. So I think MLS has been doing a better job at that. But it just has to keep growing, right? Like you have teams like Columbus who just won the cup 2 years ago. Then they were so big on Miami, and then Miami was terrible. So it's like there's just so many different facets that go into it. But you see MLS try to market like the Cincy and the Columbus rivalry, and it's like We could probably use that slot and put the Revs on against the Orlando City or something like that. Like there's much better games going on, but
Yeah.
it's all monetary
Yeah, I
control
think
or period.
you're cutting off there, but yeah, no, it's if they're able to figure this out, I think it'd be amazing. I think I went a little too high. I'm gonna be cheap and say $30. You know, let's start off somewhere.
30's
Let's
cool.
start
30's cool.
30's cool. Like I paid 30 for a whole season. I don't know if that's me being cheap, but like we can start off somewhere. You know, we'll start it off somewhere, and then you work your way up. But I think $30 around there. I don't know, people in the chat, you guys are listening, you guys watching. What would you pay for an MLS? League pass. Let's call it MLS League Pass or whatever. You know, what would you guys pay? Just throw a number down there, because I think I'm very interested to see, because you also can't outprice people, because if like
Nah,
I said $100, I think that's a little too much. I don't know.
right.
For the season, I don't know, because I think the NBA, I want to say the NBA is like 200 or close to 300. I don't know,
Yeah,
something like that. I think NFL is like 300 or something like that. But you also don't want to outprice people, because look, it's gonna be us, kids, or so many people, families and stuff. Like, I don't think, hey dad, can I get $100 to pay for the MLS pass? You know what I'm saying? Especially now where you can stream it. Well, there's discords and all these different things. But if there was that one spot that made it easy, flexible, I had everything on you can watch on your phone, right? The app and everything. I'd pay for that convenience. But yeah, I'm very interested to see. Let's talk.
Knowing
We
me, I'd be like, yo, send Don Garber a message like, yo, you got a link for me? You got the pass?
Tweet Don
You know
Garber,
it,
like
man.
tweet Don Garber.
Yeah, come on, man.
Hey man, where's the link? Let me get access to your account.
You get your
Um,
login information, man.
yeah, let me get the login information, because I know you got all the episodes. I mean, all the games on there.
My
Um,
petition is for more Austin FC games on
oh
TV.
God, get out of here. Austin FC cannot be on prime time until they start to win. They
This year is gonna be tough. I'm telling you, man. I just love how like the stadium looks on TV
Oh, it's
when they score.
amazing.
It's tough for them to score clearly this past year, but when they score, when the neon lights start going crazy,
The
that shit
neon,
is
look,
cool.
I'll give credit where credit. That neon light thing is amazing, but it has to feel like Christmas for the Austin FC fans, because they rarely score, So when that it's like that much better. But imagine if
Absolutely
they were able to score 3 or 4 goals a game, then it'd be like a light
fire,
show party,
fire.
it'd be crazy. But yeah, we'll see what happens, because they got the atmosphere. They did it right with the fan base. Just the on-field product is always a tough thing.
Yes,
um
sir.
One thing I wanted to share, one final thing here before we sign off here. uh Joan, obviously, who was on here on the show last week, he spilled. I don't know if you're seeing this. He spilled coffee. I don't know if he spilled or knocked his coffee over, but Chicharito posted on his Instagram. He's with the mad emoji coffee, and he spilled on over his neon shorts, his socks, and his dunks. I just thought that was hilarious. I want to know how that happened. Did he bump into him or whatever? You know, but I think this is a type of content that you see, that brotherhood, the continued brotherhood that continues to go on there, to just to mess with, even though that happens. What are your thoughts on stuff like this?
Two things, man. Like one, sorry that you have to go from Julian Araujo to talking to me. That's unfortunate for you. Uh, that wasn't what I wanted to say, but there are two things. Julian is so great, man, because like he's such a young player. He's already like the guy in that locker room. So
Yeah.
this is great for Chicharito to post this. I love it. It's amazing. Araujo clearly looks unbothered, or maybe he doesn't know he's recording, but he doesn't seem like he's worried about Chicharito's neon shorts or socks. And two, this is the content you're not getting from Carlos Vela because he doesn't have Instagram no more.
Hey,
There you
hey,
go.
hey. Yep,
Plus one
yep.
for the Galaxy.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the difference of the superstars. And now Vela obviously not having. Well, he was never that guy. But yeah, I think this is the type of content fans like, and other people like us appreciate too, because you get to. This is how you get to know some of these players. And also shout out to Joe Araujo. He was great, man. He was great to talk to. Learned a lot about him. Learned a lot of different things that we didn't know. All those different things, and it was great. I really liked the interview. I got a lot of positive feedback from the interview. A lot of people really appreciate it. They also, I was surprised. They're like, hey, I didn't know this much about Araujo, and I've been following him for since he got to here to the Galaxy. So I mean, yeah, credit to him for being open. He answered every question. I asked him beforehand if anything was off the table, anything like that, because sometimes because I know how big the decision was for Mexico, and he was like, he was open to everything, answered everything as genuine as possible, and that's what you like to see, right, going into a big season. Because I feel like yeah, I asked and I talked to him about it, potentially this being his last season because he's on his way to be the guy for the Mexican national team. He's clearly the guy in the back end for the Galaxy, but he's clearly, to me, he has everything to be ready for Europe. Now I don't know what league or anything like that, but he has the tools and everything to get to go to Europe. And I like how he answered that question. He's like, whatever's for me is for me. There's no rush. He's focused on the Galaxy. But what are your thoughts on that on this? Do you see this as being Joan Araujo's last season? Not because he was forcing his way out. It's just opportunity. He's talented and he's ready to go.
Yeah, it was a super dope interview for sure. I loved it, man. So props to you and to Julian. I think it's good because Julian never shies away from speaking. I think even in situations where he was very upset during the seasons, he would still get, in front of the camera or in front of us and speak. So shout outs to him too. And I give him credit for being such a young player and having that mentality. Along the same lines, if his trajectory keeps going the way it did last year, 100%. There's going to be interest from, if there's not already interest from places, there's going to be interest because I think that he was amazing. He was probably easily one of the best defenders in the league this past year. To me, probably the best Galaxy player the whole year. I'm pretty sure I voted for him for the best Galaxy player. Obviously, we knew who was going to win that, but I voted for him because he was incredible. And when he starts getting those chances with Mexico, knowing that all eyes are on a World Cup year, a team that is trying to, I guess, compete with the U.S. now for that number one spot in CONCACAF, he could be integral to that, and that notoriety, that exposure is only going to boost what people see of him. So if he has another solid season like he did last year, 100%.
Yeah, and I think he's definitely get that shot once he gets called up again for the World Cup qualifiers and is able to boost his profile and continue to have continue to have continued success with the Galaxy. Um, anything else, Andy? You'd like to talk before we sign off here? Anything else? I think
I
we kind of
do
covered
like
everything.
that I didn't mention earlier, and this is going back to LAFC, that they play Toronto. So that's going to be interesting to see. I don't know how much time they'll get. I don't know if Sharundalo will have time to talk to Bob Bradley and if Bob Bradley is receptive to even giving them advice and stuff like that. But I just think that's pretty interesting that they have a game lined up with Toronto in the preseason right away, which is going to be, for Bob's mind, it's going to be great to play them. For Steve, it's going to kind of be like, all right,
Well,
let's
this is the Galaxy. The Galaxy.
don't LAFC play them too though?
No, they don't play them.
Oh, I thought the
They'll
LAFC played
they'll
them.
be they don't play them. Yeah, no, they don't play. Galaxy are playing Toronto.
I know the
The
Galaxy, but I thought they both played them. All right, well, never mind then.
Yeah,
Scrap
yeah.
that. But
I don't know if they would want to set that up without
why
having
not,
the
man? They friends.
without having
Everybody's
the
friends.
cameras. You have to have the cameras. I'm saying like the TV
Oh,
deals.
man, I wish they played this year.
That's what you get. All the eyes. No, you have to wait for the ESPN. That would have to be on ESPN,
It has
Fox
to be
Sports.
MLS Cup.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that would have to be televised, is what I'm trying to get
Yeah,
to.
nah.
But
Well,
no, to your point on the Goldchella, I want that. Maybe that we're gonna ask around, but like maybe they don't have the fan section set up. Right? I don't know, because I think they also use that for like they use it for tennis. I haven't been there. I don't know if it's the same polo club, or I think because I've gone to Coachella, like the concert, and I think that's where you get your tickets and then you drive down to the actual venue. I'm thinking it's the same spot, but I just pulled up there, so I don't know. Like I'm curious to know if we as media are able to go and check out the games. I wouldn't.
It's open for media credentials, so I'm sure
Yeah,
if you hate people love, you'll be able to get in.
yeah, I wouldn't mind maybe going to a game or two, making the drive out for the day and coming back. Just to go check it out for the day and see. Because there's gonna be a couple games that I like to see. Maybe that first game, Galaxy Toronto FC, and a couple other games that I saw. DC United's going to be there, so just to also check out, the Sounders are going to be there. Also check out how the Sounders are looking.
You just
Um,
want to go. You just want to go talk to
I
Bob
just
again. Tell the truth, man.
who?
You just want to go talk to Bob again. Tell the truth, man. I know you miss him.
Dude, I actually just miss watching soccer live. I do miss that, and this will be that will be one of my first, if not, because I don't I'm gonna try to go to a couple of these practices before these games, but I don't know. I'm not gonna go into anything this week. Maybe next week. I just got a lot of things going on, so we'll see. What are you gonna plan on going? Do you have any interest on going to that?
Well, I don't know if I'll be back from Colombia yet, but I will tell you that I'm
Hey,
watching
this
live
man,
soccer on
this man is on a
Sunday.
2 month vacation, bro.
I'm not on
Must feel
vacation. If I
nice.
was on vacation, I would not be here talking to you. I'll tell you that much. Well, all the love
This
in the world.
guy.
But Friday is the start of the Colombian League. Sunday, Medellin plays at home for week one. Then next Wednesday, I'll be in Barranquilla for the Colombia qualifier against Peru. And I'll be hitting up as many games as I can here in Medellin before I get back to LA. I will be back at some point before MLS season starts. I will be at the home openers at the bank. I will be at the home opener at Dignity Health Sports Park. Don't miss me too much, but if I'm back, maybe we can ride to Coachella, man.
Hey, let's
Or
do it.
Coachella, my bad, Coachella.
Go tell her. Hey, yeah, yeah. We'll definitely carpool up there, man. Yeah, I know. Not all of us can live the high life, living in a mansion in Colombia and meeting
This
up with
guy, this guy,
soccer
this
players
guy is
for
on
coffee.
on field at SoFi for NFL playoffs, man.
Yeah,
You're
we
probably gonna
don't need
be
to talk
performing
about it.
half of
We
the
don't need to
Super
talk
Bowl at this
about
rate,
that.
man.
Hey, so what I was saying, and I kept saying this. If you haven't been to SoFi, you have to go. Andy, I know you've been
Yes,
there. Like, it is the best stadium I've ever been to in my life, and I've been to a lot of stadiums, from all different sports. If you guys haven't been to, whenever you can, if it's not to watch a football game, I know they have concerts and different things out there, or get a tour. Like even a tour. I know it's not the same, but man, it's just impressive.
place is
Like, and
incredible, man.
I've been saying this. I would like to see an LAFC LA Galaxy game at SoFi one day because man, that would be insane. The atmosphere is crazy. So yeah, if you guys get a chance, save up some money, go to SoFi because it is amazing and there's so much to it, and you get lost too. I get lost every single time.
It's a big
Um,
building.
yeah, pretty big. That's amazing. I think that's it. I think that's definitely it. We definitely covered. We talked about Coachella, everything. Annie, I want to thank you, for hopping on. Taking time out of your healthy, your wealthy vacation. Come and hang out with us little guys over here. So
You
I
already know.
appreciate you hopping on. I appreciate you. You came. You gave us a full, authentic Colombian pasero look. I appreciate that. I know a lot of people in the chat really like that. But yeah, guys, if you guys enjoyed this, make sure to give this a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and the podcast. And we're getting fancy now. I got a little sign here. If you guys are watching, it says follow us on social at LA Soccer Hub. So we're on there. Give us a follow. So for Andy, this is Gio. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye, everybody.